Hey guys, Rinji here. Once again, bringing you the worst out of the VTuber community. And sadly, my dear viewers, politics is unavoidable in this day and age, especially on the internet and especially on social media. Even in places where entertainment should reign supreme, like the quote-unquote VTuber community, as some people call it. I call it the VTuber scene, as there are many VTuber communities, each one separate to their own agency and to specific individuals as well. But certain people do not believe that. Certain people believe in some sort of they-them collective that has to have singular opinions on specific topics, and if that opinion differs for whatever reason, that person gets excommunicated and essentially shunned. And political issues, especially modern American ones, in the English-speaking sphere of social media, they dominate pretty much the discussion, and you cannot avoid it. And be you an English speaker or someone that's close to it, be you ESL even, something like that. But if you engage with that sort of content online, you'll be seeing it a lot. And again, it's happening in VTuber sphere as well. So today we have one of these unfortunate situations as a VTuber by the name of Tomoe Umari gets involved in a political matter, not of her own choosing, by the way. She's just getting roped into it because of the latest happenings in the United States involving ICE, involving the two fatalities of US citizens, especially during the Minneapolis protests and also riots and also whatever that's going on in there. And of course, VTubers that do not know where the 5 cents are needed decided to speak up about it and yeah, essentially go on a full-on campaign proclaiming to, let me quote, fuck ICE, essentially, making posts here and there, essentially saying that the organization is corrupt to the bone and it should be dismantled. It's essentially Gestapo or you know, the precursors to modern Nazis, that kind of thing. And everyone, as you probably expect, everyone that kept silent, a big VTuber or even smaller VTubers that kept silent on the matters, that didn't chip in with their fuck ICE statements and others, were suspected by these VTubers that simply couldn't mind their own business, essentially. And again, one such VTuber is Tomoe Umari. And this is pretty much the tweet that kickstarted it all for Tomoe, as another VTuber, a fanboy VTuber by the name of Moemi, so with the moniker of Brat VTuber because they are rat, get it? Decided to post the following image, essentially parodying Tomoe, but also like vaguely threatening her, but also calling it a rage bait joke later on. The caricature of Tomoe here says, another day as a morally neutral in an innocent nationalist. And for those of you that don't know, Tomoe is in the US military. She's an active duty. And this is essentially it. That's why this person specifically went out after her. Like, why isn't this VTuber making statements about what's happening in her own country, especially being part of the US government? Are they complicit in what's happening in Minneapolis? Do they support ICE? Are they an evil person deep down? And Moemi here says, turn this industry plant horse into glue. I'm so for real, he says. So, as you can probably tell by the amounts of answers, by the amount of replies to this post, 657 of them, he kind of got cooked for this statement, because he's not even vaguely threatening someone that wanted to stay neutral on the matter, or just not even neutral because you don't know her thoughts on the matter. She just wanted to essentially be kept out of it and stick to her VTuber duties, which is entertaining people. We're not going to be going through the posts because there's, well, a shitload of them, as you can see them. But we'll go through some of other reactions, especially Tomoe's, to people essentially trying to pull her into this whole political kerfuffle. And there have been many hundreds, if not thousands, of posts that involved her, but we're going to be looking only through some select ones, as well as her own statements. Well, let's take a look. Upon essentially being harassed and being constantly under the magnifying glass of these people just waiting for Tomoe to say her piece, say essentially fuck ice, like that one guy you've probably seen a TikTok video, if you're following the protests in the United States, that followed just a random guy around, trying to force him to say fuck ice, and when he stayed silent and just kept on walking, minding his own business, the guy kept shouting at the top of his lungs, calling him a Nazi. So that's essentially what's happening to Tomoe right now. Like, people are just screeching and shouting at her. Like, why don't you say anything? Are you in support of ICE? Are you against ICE? We need to know, because we can't mind our own fucking business. And after all of that happening, Tomoe had finally had enough of that and decided to make a few statements about it, because they needed clarification, and that's the only clarification, apart from some other posts that she made later, that they're gonna get about it. And here she is on January 27th saying, "This is the last time I will hopefully ever have to speak on it. But please stop saying this person needs to say something. Nobody owes you anything, regardless of what you may believe. Let content creators make the content they want to make in peace. I think it's that simple." And she added, "Pressuring/bullying people into speaking on things they're not comfortable with is just robbing them of their individual freedom. I think that's extremely evil. But again, as I explained in the beginning, these people do not believe in individual freedoms. They believe in collective responsibility, and you need to go with the flow of the current zeitgeist. Otherwise, again, you might just be an evil person deep down, because you don't say what most of them are saying. It's collectivist, communist bullshit. Essentially, that's what it is." And then there were quote retweets from said people. Just say you don't want to lose your mega money. I would have more respect for your spineless actions than your half-baked post. Fuck ICE. Fuck mega, says Dead Knight, parentheses, VTuber, and others, as they were discussing that shit. No normal fan wants that stuff brought to the VTuber sphere. Tell that to Kirsche then. Of course, Kirsche has to be involved in this somehow. Kirsche's content revolves around politics. It's 100% different, and you know this. And I have to add here that Kirsche's content wasn't always that politically charged. I don't like it. I don't like when VTubers talk politics. I think it's just, as I was saying many months ago, it's completely divisive. You know, splits your community down certain lines that you cannot recover from, and essentially gets into everyone's enjoyment of said VTuber. But again, that's her choice to make in regards to the content that Kirsche wants to make, so it's whatever on that point, at least. But again, she wasn't really all that political in the beginning. Rather, she was just known for playing video games, but what's been happening in her country in the last decade, or even more than that, you know, kind of incentivized her to talk more about it, because she does care what happens to her country, and she cares for her own well-being in that specific country of the United States. So you cannot blame her for getting a little bit uppity about that. But let's continue. Tomoe follows her. I thought she was supposed to not be political. Follows are not endorsements. Get over yourself. Never said that. If you want to remain apolitical, don't follow political streamers, LMAO. Well, essentially, you reiterated what the guy just told you you're doing. You're blaming Tomoe there for associations. You don't know why she followed Kirsche. You just essentially spitballing ideas of why she might have done that. And they like to do that all the time. Like, find very minor clues about this person and then go the whole fucking distance trying to paint them as a bad person. Because of associations, because of vague statements, or no statements at all, like in Tomoe's case, for example. But let's continue. And another one, another brat VTuber, by the name of Kora. So many fucking brat VTubers here. God damn it. Says, I feel like her entire persona is political and to say she doesn't want to comment to avoid being political is a cop-out. Human rights are not political. I don't think we need to get rid of deportation. I think we need to get rid of ICE. ICE has festered. Again, because Tomoe is an active service person in the military, they're saying that her whole existence is political and she should be making statements. Even though if you know anything about Tomoe's content, she just plays into the patriotic part of being a silly, goofy horse that just so happens to be in the military as well, in her persona as a VTuber, as well as in real life. Other than that, she doesn't make discriminatory statements about people. She doesn't involve current politics in her content, and essentially she makes no statements that would be even remotely considered controversial. But again, whenever she gets into some sort of controversy, like a few years ago, where she was essentially blamed for being a plant of the military as a recruitment tool for the US Army, she was just doing her thing, and people just blamed her for that out of nowhere. But yeah, you get what I mean and where I'm going with this. So she's essentially a victim of existing and having specific aesthetics that people associate with certain things. Let's continue. I'm begging people to realize that their silence is violence in this situation. Insane statements. If you don't say anything, you're equally to blame as people that support ICE, for example. It's essentially this specific way of thinking. And others. Tomoe wants to be an anime girl and ignore the murders ICE has committed. Want to hide behind her US veteran status. She meant that she doesn't want to piss off her mega audience that's lining her pockets. She's shown her true colors here. See, as I was saying, just people making shit up in their own minds, knowing nothing about Tomoe and knowing nothing about her audience at the same time. And there was more. And here's a person explaining that as a soldier, Tomoe essentially should not make politically charged statements online because, you know, that's the proper conduct if you're in active military. For those who don't know, a sailor, and in Umari's case, a soldier, is to remain apolitical at all times, especially when in uniform. That's the bare minimum. Now, as a VTuber whose main objective is to entertain, that regulation is more important, and don't be mean to her for that. And a person replies to that with cult values. Like, I would say something about, you know, one specific flag in that person's name and something about cultish behavior, but I won't. You'll just have to figure that out on your own or look through my other videos. But yeah, trying to remain out of politics is apparently cult behavior. Alright, let's move on. And again, after all of this stuff, Tomoe was forced to make even more statements because people just don't let up. I apologize if any of my replies came off as rude or discourteous. I've just been very frustrated today. It's exhausting having my character continuously attacked just for wanting to protect my space. Thank you for everyone for supporting and believing in me though. And more statements. about that one specific initial comment of hers from people that are insane. If you try to pull the apolitical shtick in 2026, I'm just gonna automatically assume you're a right-wing Trump supporter because WTF, they say. Like, I wish I have the ability to spin such fan fiction. It would probably be bestsellers in a lot of bookstores with these people's imagination. Let's move on. And then Tomoe made a few more statements. I think the lesson I've learned is that you can try and be as polite and as considerate of others as possible. And people will still make wild assumptions about your character, try and slander you, and make demands from you. I feel bad for such miserable people, but I've done no wrong. Despite my efforts to be tough and optimistic about everything, I've admittedly been pretty anxious and sad today. Hope things get better soon. I generally just want to make content and have fun with my fans. I know I shouldn't let it, but all the hostility weighs upon me for a bit. Yeah, and again, if some of you know Tomoe's personality and Tomoe's content, you do know that things tend to get to her on a mental level quite often, so that amount of undue attention certainly affected her in very negative ways. That's why she felt like she was forced to make all of these statements in order to just be left alone. But you understand that these people will never leave you alone. They just want you to essentially bend the knee to them, to show that you're part of the posse, that you're part of the ongoing riot, and that you stand with them, otherwise you're against them. That's how it works. And let's move on. Then Tomoe made a little bit more of a positive statements. Forever a goofy, patriotic tomboy horse girl. And after even making such statements, other positive statements like here, can't stop a horse full of whimsy and joy, let's continue as usual, salute emoji. She got attention of one of the latest, but still not very notable harassers in the VTuber sphere by the name of Softendo, a person I should probably do a full video on at some point because they're that insane. But to give you like the cliff notes of what they do, they essentially go around harassing people due to political differences. And what kind of characterizes Softendo is the fact that they're a sexual deviant, an alleged pedophile at that point, and they have a fetish for starting fires. Yes, they have some pyromaniacal fetish. He gets off to the idea of starting fires, and I'm not even kidding about that. Go through his account, look for the word fire, blaze, flame, whatever, and you'll get a whole cavalcade of content that you probably never desired to see, other than from morbid curiosity. So yeah, if you got a guy like this on your case, you're probably doing something right, though. And here he is showcasing that he went into her chat to essentially harass her. Let's have a little zoom in on that one. Here you can see Softendo commenting in her chat saying, having fun with your community filled with fascists, by the way. Abolish ICE and free Palestine. Yes, that's what he does, and that's probably the least that he did to somebody, and just directly going into their chat in order to, make them angry and harm them in some sort of way. But yeah, Softendo's story is a story for another time. Let's take a look at some other people that decided to go and bother Tomoe about it. And here's Sylvie, about which I did a whole fucking stream about, called Sylvie Marina's Most Loyal Capo, I believe that stream was called. If you're wondering what Sylvie's been up to in all of these years, you can go watch that particular stream. But again, cliff notes of what this person has done, and pretty much the most egregious ones from his history is trying to harass a disabled woman to homelessness, and then spreading malicious rumors about the VTuber called Taiga, essentially painting him to be a pedophile and worse. That's Sylvie's history right there. But there is a lot more to this guy because he's just an insane gaslighting abuser and harasser, and that's all he does, other than posting weird first baits that nobody usually reacts to online. But yeah, he got involved in Tomoe's case as well, so let's take a look at that. So yeah, Tomoe made another statement that I already read, that this person needs to make a statement, yada yada. And people were replying with, you have to eventually pick a side too, like it or not. There's no middle ground. It's been that way for a long time. No, I do not believe that. Even when these people say that silence is compliance or even silence is violence, the fact that they say that doesn't really mean that you have taken a side or made any sort of stance regarding any issue. It just means that these people are free to paint you as whatever they want. And yeah, they just go full black and white. There's no shades of gray here in regards to all of these controversial discussions and topics of a political nature on social media. And Tomoe replies with, I'm an anime woman on the internet, to which Sylvie says, but you're also a person. I get the whole in-character stuff, but a lot of people, but a lot of what's happening is directly impacting people right now, including people within the community itself. Ignoring it to a point becomes compliance, says Sylvie, which again sounds like as this other person said, sounds vaguely like a threat. Why does this feel like a thinly veiled threat? What if she doesn't agree with your opinions? What then? And Tomoe here quickly puts Sylvie in his place by showcasing that he's Canadian and he should probably mind his own fucking business, the fucking leaf, and stick to problems within his own country, like people getting euthanized without their consent. Because yes, that's what happens in Canada nowadays. That very well-known healthcare that they exhibit towards their citizens, that you can essentially KYS yourself, or your family members may do it for you if they feel that you're big enough of a burden to them. And isn't that dystopian? But yeah, this continues. Marketing yourself as a US military VTuber is political in itself, to which Tomoe replies, US military service members are encouraged to remain politically neutral in public. So yes, she herself had to make that statement that she would like to remain that and continue with her duties as a VTuber entertainer. And then Sylvie replied with, what's stopping you from going? I do not support what is currently happening. I also would like people to respect my boundaries on what I wish to be open about or how to use my platform. Well, you're essentially telling her to make a statement anyway, because, reasons that I stated in the videos before. Probably because that's a political statement, which Sylvie doesn't really understand the whole issue behind it. And then he still decides to continue and essentially use his gaslighting tactics like he usually does. I think if anything, acknowledging any of this in any degree is a mistake, because if anything, it makes her look more suspicious, especially when she's trying to imply people are asking her are the evil ones. Please read what I said, says Tomoe, pressuring and bullying someone into saying something when they don't want to make any statement, regardless of their stance, being one thing or the other, is evil. That's an objective truth. To which Sylvie replied with, "So is murdering innocent civilians, yet instead of making a comment on that, you instead focus on one thing, you then need to add the second part. LMAO," says Sylvie. And I'm not even gonna show the replies that he got from other people because they essentially pointed out the same thing about his personal history and his online history with harassment. So whatever he says and whatever he tries to manipulate you into thinking can be wholly dismissed on the account of the things that he did in the past. So yeah, this whole thing I bet is going to continue as the situation in Minneapolis is escalating. It's not slowing down like at all. It's just only gonna get worse, and these people are gonna get louder and louder, and they're gonna involve further innocent people in their bullshit. But let's hope that it dies down at some point, and I'm sure it's gonna be at some point in the future at least. And things are gonna return back to normal, and the normal VTuber drama cycle will resume, and things are gonna get incredibly annoying and boring again. For right now, that's everything, and I hope to see you on the next one.